Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So what I want to say at the beginning about this, and please listen to it rather than just jumping to your choice, because it is kind of important as a scene setting thing here, is this is actually, it's a reading about what your spirit team want to say most urgently to you about your calling and your path at the moment. And it's partly because I had the calling to do this, and particularly in response to the very divisive and quite ugly at the moment world that we're dealing with. And it doesn't mean that everything is ugly. There's much that is beautiful in the world, but there is a lot of division. There is a lot of sort of negative energy being met by even more negative energy, being met by even more negative energy, particularly politically at the time that I'm reading this. And it's not about a side on politics. I try not to take a side on politics, but there's something here with a kind of, I don't know whether it's the algorithmic echo chambers that are created, but it's very disturbing energy around at the moment. It may be Pluto and Aquarius, Saturn and Neptune in Aries, that kind of energy, I'm not sure. But I feel like spiritually there is a calling now to really understand your energy and your special gifts, what you're meant to do in response to what part of the material, social, political, philosophical, educational, whatever it is, world. Like, it's kind of like, I think we're at a bit of a tipping point. And so this is going to be pretty serious reading. I guess that's why I wanted you to know that going straight into this, that's the headspace I'm in at the moment, and that's what I'm being called to talk about. So if that's not your thing, then that's fine. I absolutely understand it. I do think that most of the people in this collective and the people that I've corresponded with in comments and so forth are the sort of people that are ready for this and will take it and do something really wonderful with it. And I hope that that's true. But yeah, I absolutely also understand if that's like, oh, that sounds a bit too heavy. And if it sounds a bit too heavy for right now and you want to come back to it in a week or two, do that. Like, this is a timeless reading, but it's coming from a time, let's put it that way, in terms of when the reading is coming. So what I wanted to do was look at first an energy around what the calling for you might be about, which is sort of represented as part of the choice cards here from the Path of the Illuminated Soul. There's some astrology cards underneath it, which I want to look at the energy in the world that is calling to you, and then why your energy is the other card astrologically, just to get a bit of a fix on it. And then we're going to use tarot and we're going to ask what your spirit team members who are sort of ancestors or soul family want to say, what your spirit team members that are maybe angels or deities or gods or goddesses that you are connected with or you felt connected with, or nature spirits or whatever it might be, want to say to you, that kind of thing. And then also what your own soul is sort of wanting to say to you about it. And then we're going to use some cards to look at what the energy within the outer world, what your personal energy is in response to that, and your spiritual guidance and so forth, so that we can kind of round it out. So, yeah. Okay, so probably don't need to sort of say anything more beyond that. You can, of course, go to more than one reading because there might be more than one calling, or it might be a combination of these energies that are important, so that's up to you. But pile number 1 has Strength, the Forest King. Pile number 2 has Illumination, the Moon. And pile number 3 has Inward, the Silent Day. When you know what reading or readings you want to go to, I have the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Strength, the Forest King. What it sort of says to the side is, tall and proud, the king of his realm, guide and protector. And that's pretty much the energy I'm seeing here. I always think when I see this card of Arthurian legends, the kind of concept of the king that is the steward. I mean, it's about stewardship, really, I think, this card. So I think your calling is about stewardship in some way. That could be connected to something that you do in your job. It could be stewardship over a family. It could be stewardship in a social or political group, whatever it might be. There is a sense of being a leader. Now, you don't have to be the CEO or a boss or something like that. It's the responsible one, the one who is actually looking for the overall health of the all, because that's the kind of sense when I get the Forest King. I feel like the Forest King connects with nature, the true material world, and looks at what is healthful and supportive and that grows and builds, rather than things that divide or wither away. And as I say, I'm looking at a time where we need this. We need stewardship immensely because we're getting almost blindly like pushed into sides that create division, and it's hard with division at that point for it to then grow. It just seems to kind of just stay open like an open wound. So I feel that this is saying you have a stewardship role, and it very much shows up in the astrology because this is the card to show what is the energy in the world that is calling to you at the moment, and this is how why your energy is being called to, why you're being called. So when we look at this, when we think of this as a stewardship leadership role, we have two of the planets that actually are leaders in a sense within astrology. Jupiter is the equivalent of Zeus. Saturn is the equivalent of Kronos. Two leaders of the universe sort of thing as an archetypal energy. This has got something to do with either the power to give freedom, expansion and growth, or the power to restrict and control. That's one energy that those two together could be operating in the world at the moment, that you are now responding to in this sort of stewardship. And I think it's pretty obvious that you're meant to kind of release the Jupiter energy, but Jupiter can be too much as well. So Saturn does kind of limit it as well. So and sometimes a limitation is necessary as well. So in a time where, if some sort of conflict starts and then there's an even bigger response than the next and a bigger response and suddenly you're in World War III or something like that, that is actually a negative Jupiter energy because it's too much. So Saturn does limit it. So there's sort of like there's hanging in the balance between the old and the new, the disciplined and the sort of free form. There's something about that, but it is about power. Power is involved in this in some way, whether you are directly involved in something political, social, or within a workplace or something like that, or whether it is just the sense of understanding that is a very important balance. And that's kind of the tipping point that we're at in many ways. Your energy is the capacity to transform the old structure. With Pluto. Pluto is at a very deep level, a very powerful level. If you think of in a way, Jupiter being like Zeus, Saturn being like Kronos, Pluto's kind of like Hades. It's the underworld, it's the very deep stuff, but it's also major transformations. So I think that you are being called on in this way with the stewardship because there is something, I feel like there's something in the old structures that have to fall at the moment in some way in your life and in the world, and it's mirroring. This is what this is about. This is your calling, understanding that. And you have a sense of discipline and responsibility that allows it not to become too much and that allows it to transform in a very deep way in the way that it needs to do it. But it doesn't lose what structure you need to make it possible for others. Because if you think about the Forest King as an archetype, if a leader, even with the best of intentions, starts to just change everything into their image or whatever, you end up with something that is very negative and it becomes too much. But if there is some discipline associated with the powerful energy, then the transformation has a capacity. To me, Saturn and Pluto, they're working well together, is a bit like the Tower reversed, where there is major change occurring, but it is changing in such an ordered and managed way that the best outcome can happen rather than everything just collapsing. So this is almost like the Tower upright, like the energy where it could escalate and become too much in some situation. This is where there is the deep change that needs to occurs, but it is done in a structured way. So I feel that's what you're being called in some way. Now, this doesn't mean you've got to suddenly rush off and join a political party if you're not into that or whatever. It doesn't matter how it happens. It could be even happening just in your spiritual practice and what the energy that you're sending into the world. But you do have a role. You have a calling along those lines. So we're going to use tarot and we're going to ask, firstly, what does those in your spirit team that would be ancestral or soul family, what do they want to say to you right now about your calling? Knight of Cups, the Magician, King of Wands reversed, Ten of Pentacles reversed, the Lovers. Okay. So there is something here. There is an archetype of an old kingdom, an old way of doing things, and possibly an illegitimate or a bad way of using power that is falling. So in some way in your life, you're being called to see or notice that, whether it's very personal or whether it's sort of something you do on the bigger stage. That has to happen actually. So there is definitely that energy. Um, but what this is saying, what your particular spirit team is saying, I think, is they're trying to tell you the recipe for making this work, because it's very big and it's almost a titanic sort of struggle in a way. They're saying that you have the skills to do this. This is why. And I mean, this deck has a lot of kind of animal skulls with horns or whatever, but it's just kind of interesting. The magician here is the talent, is showing up looking very much like the Forest King. You have the skills, ability, and so forth to do this. And I think, to me, it's a very mercurial energy when I see the magician. So your communication has a lot to do with this. But what it is saying is that it has to come from the heart and it has to be in relationship to others. So you have to provide an offering that is of the heart and that understands and doesn't demonize. Like, this is the other thing. It's sort of like here there is a connection between an angel and what could potentially be a demon, but they're connecting. So this is to breach a divide in this change, because whenever you're looking at something, if an old system is falling, and particularly if it maybe it got to that point, which most systems get to, where they're kind of run by a despot, then the new system has to come. It has to occur. And it's saying that you definitely do have like a communication role to be responsible to try and make it happen in a measured way, to make sure it gets to the depths, but that it is done in a way that people feel safe. And this is about relationship. So it's saying one of the reasons you're called to this is you have extremely good relationship skills and you have the capacity to see the good in others. So that's even if they're on a different side to you. So that's very, very important. So your ancestors want you to understand that this is partly your role you're being called to, but it's about relationship. It really makes me think of servant leader, actually, which to me personally, I have a personal bias here, I think that's the best type of leadership. It's a leadership that's not about being a ruler. It's a leadership about serving those that either work for you or work with you or whatever. So it's about relationship. So in the midst of titanic change and deep change, your skills with relationship and with not demonizing the other are very important, your ancestral spirit team say. What about the parts of your spirit team that could be archangels or deities or nature spirits, all that kind of thing, the kind of entity level ones? What do they want to say to you? Seven of Pentacles, Two of Swords, the World reversed, Knight of Swords reversed, Ace of Wands. Okay. They're saying one of the reasons why Saturn, why your Saturnian side, connecting with Pluto, and your Saturnian side here, or the world Saturnian side connecting with Jupiter, is important. One of the reasons why you're being called to this is that you are capable of dealing with the slow growth of something. And you also see the importance of that. You know, often with the Seven of Pentacles, we see a gardener. And what the gardener, in a sense, symbolizes is once the right seeds are planted, it takes time for it to grow and it needs to be tended. It needs to be nurtured. It needs to be stewarded through that. So the kind of, as I say, entity level of your spirit team is saying you are chosen for that reason. And because you are careful in choices, you take the time to make good choices. You slow things down when it's necessary, because again, if the energy of the world is like Saturn trying to stop change and then there's such a push towards change, if it tilts towards Jupiter and things start escalating, it can go very fast. So you are able to slow down and I think almost reduce the temperature on decisions. That in whatever this is part of what you do because you have the relationship energy. It says you have unfinished business around this, that this, and it will take time and you have the patience for that. But it's also saying that at the point where you may be feeling like it's now going too slow and is it going to get stuck, there's going to be a new inspiration. So it's saying don't worry too much about that at the moment. Even don't worry too much about the decisions. Try and slow some of that down. Get the relationships right. See a longer growth period Once you start to feel it's almost too slow, that's when the real inspiration's coming through. So that's when almost the Pluto, like I feel like Pluto there is like a volcano, and there's a point where the volcano erupts, but not in a bad way, because you've got it measured. You've got it in a way that it has space to breathe and be. And that's when the real fire, the real new energy comes through, and a new beginning can come through. So I'm just going to draw 3 cards for what your own soul says about this, because this is the spirit team saying this is how your spiritual energy, your energetic imprint is being called within this world at the moment in some way. What does your soul want to say about it? Star reversed, 9 of Swords, the Empress reversed. Okay. So your soul says that either this will seem very strange to you, like it doesn't feel like you're calling at all with the star reversed, or it's saying that this is something you're being asked to step aside from what your personal thing is at this point to do something that is transpersonal, something that is more in the world and not just about your development. And it says, your soul says you may worry about whether you are ready for it or strong enough for it. It's saying that part of the thing that you have to be aware of here, so that you do feel less worried about it, because you are meant to do it, is that there is a kind of a period of time, and this is why it's only for a period of time to steward this. Like this is the forest king. Jupiter is like Zeus, Kronos, we've got Hades. They're all very divine masculine energies we've got around this. So it's like this, you are meant to bring the relationship energy. So to some degree, you're bringing in the divine feminine, but it can't be done directly. And it isn't, as I say, it's transpersonal. This growth is for something outside of you. This is focusing the growth and so forth on the transpersonal, on those that you steward or whatever. You do need to access the divine feminine for the relationship energy, but it will feel like you're suddenly being taken out of what you thought your path was to do this. But you have the energy that can do this. And your soul just wants you to know it won't be for forever, and not to be afraid. You have what you need, and you'll be able to reawaken all that once it's done. But you are literally being called. Okay. So let's just get 3 cards from the sister deck to this tarot deck, the Lenormand, around fortune energy that you need to be aware of while this calling is. Because for you, it's for a period of time. So, and that period of time might be quite a long time, or it might be only, a matter of weeks or months or whatever. But anyway, so the fortune energy around it. Animus. So that is, I always got to remember whether animus is male or female. I just paused to check. I thought it was male. I thought it was animus was male and animo was female, but I just wanted to check. So that again, there is a masculine energy around this. You don't have to be male. You don't have to identify with female or anything like that. We all have masculine and feminine in us. We all have the animus and the anima. It also is, to some degree, a call to action. So action will need to be taken around this. Mice. Okay, you have to be aware, and this is why you've got to get the relationship stuff going. And it's also why you need to have the patience, is that while you're trying to do this, small things will try and undermine it. So it will try and eat away. And this may be why your soul's trying to say this, because it may be if you feel that you're not right for this role, or somehow like this doesn't seem to fit, or it's taking away from what you want. That's that. If something wanted to push back against you, that's how they'll do it. They'll do it with like little whispers of this isn't right, or why you're doing it, or who are you to rule, or who are you to lead, or whatever. Or you may feel that it's eating away on what you do, and the more that you act, the more this happens. But I feel like mice in the end is not a strong card, so it's saying you are stronger than this, but you have to be aware that that energy is going to come. And whip, yeah, and sometimes it's going to attack. So I'm sorry, but I thought this was going to be a heavy sort of reading, and you are taking on a role where you are going to be challenging other people and challenging old systems and so forth. In some ways, it's almost easier to deal with the whip. When somebody criticizes you, you can kind of like come back. The mice is the one to watch for, because it's not really that strong. And the whip in many ways isn't either. It's just unpleasant. This is the one that could eat away. And I think that your spirit team wants you to know that you have the strength to deal with this, and you are like not to doubt that. Okay, so we're going to use three of Trish James's oracles to look at this at different levels. So we're going to start with what I would call the transpersonal. Going to pull 4 cards from a deck that's kind of about world predictions. So again, this doesn't mean what you're doing has to be on the world stage. It could be energies that are on the world stage that are then reflected in a very personal situation you're dealing with and being called to deal with. But I just want to get a sense of the transpersonal energy. Then we're going to get the personal predictions, like how that balances with your energy. And then we're going to get, from the Neptune Moon deck, we're going to get kind of spiritual guidance or advice around that. So firstly, on the world stage, on the transpersonal level around this calling, what are the energies? Security, cameras, earthquake, shake up. Oh, see, I felt like there's almost like a volcano. I don't necessarily think that has to be bad though. Stay put, the greater good. Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. With the energy that we saw with the fortune, whatever you're doing, I think you will be watched by others. So there is a little bit of an advice here to like be circumspect in anything that you wouldn't want, people to sort of know or whatever, like things that are personal. Get some good boundaries around that, because what you're doing is going to be watched. Earthquake, shake up, because it's shaking up the old, so it's saying the same thing. And particularly when you get the new inspiration, even more so then, really. But like even while this is the sort of paranoid, this is a paranoid energy of Saturn. If Saturn is feeling that its rule is being, so this, as I say, this could be in a very personal relationship, or it could be something very political, social, like apply what makes sense. But someone or something is watching you, is a bit paranoid, because there's a lot of change going on. Do not give up. You are meant to be where you are. And use the Saturn energy to give you that strength and that kind of grounding, because this is for the greater good. So, okay, let's see what personal prediction energy fits with that. Be brave, deal with it. Improve situation. Yeah, this is interesting, actually. Release, letting go. Renewed passion. Yeah, okay, those are connecting to that. So what this is saying is that, yes, you will be watched in some way, in whatever this is, because people are paranoid about you. They're sensing the power of the energy that you have, the momentum that you have. Just be brave, deal with it. It'll be okay, because the situation will improve just when it appears to be at its most heightened, because that's where you thrive, Part 1. That is where your relationship genius works, when people are at the most. It's sort of something that I used to see sometimes in organisational strategy. You often could bring about the best, greater good changes when people actually felt a little bit at risk. Are my job's at risk, or is my future at risk, or whatever. That was when you could galvanise the energy and move towards an improved situation. When things are kind of good, people get a bit complacent. So this is sort of say, like, this is, you are born for this. You are born for this sort of situation. And it's then saying, if you see it through, then you'll be able to let go once the situation improves, because you're there to transition the change and steward the change. And then you get a renewed passion to do what you want. But I think it also, you instill in others a renewed passion. So you're a change agent. Let's see what spiritual energy with Neptune Moon comes with this for you. Radiant energy alignment, chakras and aura. So this would definitely say that, you're nicely balanced within, but like maybe pay attention to your chakras, see, like are you feeling your root chakra is feeling a little bit at risk with all of this, you're getting overly stimulated in the crown chakra, that kind of thing. Like try and keep that in alignment. That will help you. Winds of change, go with the flow. Yeah, like don't worry. This change needs to happen. Whether, as I say, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in a workplace, whatever it is, like just like go with the flow, because you are in the moment where you're meant to be. The Earth Guardian, grounding and protecting. Yeah, that's who you are. That's who you are. That's why this is happening. But it doesn't mean you have to do this role all the time, but you're called to do it now. And purity surrounds, cleanse negative energy. Yeah, with renewed passion, all that kind of thing. So this is a process. It's almost like an alchemical process you're doing. And I would say what you're heading towards in the greater, but after that things get better, but the pressure is coming. But it is something about an old system, an old relationship, an old power dynamic that has to shift, and it's a little bit eruptive while it happens, but then you have the strength and the capacity to go to the depths and deal with it and really face it, and that's why you're being called to do it. Okay, we need people like you, so it's encouraging in a way to see this. So you will be carrying quite a lot in whatever way this is. Okay, so let's get you a couple of spirit animals to help. We have the unicorn, otherworldly power. Yeah, you'll get like you are getting like really strong energy, and this is there is something unique about you, and that's why you're being called to do this. Because if you think about it, Jupiter and Saturn, then you've got Saturn and Pluto. They're not opposites. Like planets aren't really opposites, but to the degree the energy, they're very, very different. They're both very, very different. So that balance, finding that balance within opposites, there's something very unique about you, and the unicorn will help with that. And we have bull, consistent perseverance. Yeah, you've got the strength to see it through, the strength and the patience, and the bull will help with that. Okay, so to finish off, I just want to get you either a symbol or a synchronicity or something like that, or just some additional information to maybe say what area of life this is in and so forth by using the Lucid Dreams deck. So I just want you to choose a number between 1 and 3. Pause if you have to, because depending upon which number you choose, that will be the final message in this reading. So if you chose number 1, we have art. If you chose number 2, we have airplane. And if you chose number 3, we have nose. Okay, all right. So if you chose number 1, it may well be that the way you do this is through something artistic. So a way to be a thought leader, a way to cause great change can be around an authentic creative expression, as this talks about, which brings power and catharsis, but does it in an artistic way. Think about, the 1960s with some of the songs that were sung around anti-war and so forth, how powerful they were. It may be something like that. If you don't relate to in some workplace or some group or whatever, taking on a full stewardship role on that level, it may be that your role and how you use that kind of genius for relationships is in some artistic expression on one level or another. Otherwise, it is saying to you that what you will realize is that you do this as an art form rather than as some sort of like science. If you chose number 2, airplane, drive, ambition, motivation, momentum, radical change, you are born for this moment. And this will actually recast your ambition. The change process will be done and there'll be new energy and all that, but it will have taken you to greater heights. If you chose number 3 with nose, instinct, intuition, sensitivity, curious, inquisitive, probing, this certainly is a sort of sense that shows that it's very internal stuff. The Pluto energy is very strong with you, the understanding and the getting to the depth. But I also feel of all the people who've come to this, that security cameras, this is the one, like for you, the ones who chose 3, there will be some crossing of the line between what you are doing as a calling, as a vocation or whatever, and your personal life. And so it's very, very, because the nose is kind of your personal life, and it can be, if things occur to the nose, it can be a sign of like something invading your privacy in a way. So I don't want to like freak you out. I'm not saying it necessarily means that suddenly you're going to have somebody stalking you or anything like that, but it's just make sure that you've kept some privacy and your identity is as protected as you can through this, because people will very much personalize this. You will become a symbol of this to whoever else you're connecting in with. One thing I just got to just say as a last bit with that is one of the things that I used to see with organizational change, particularly conflict-based organizational change where there was a lot of disruption, is that sometimes when you're a change agent, which you may be in this, you can get associated with that. I would do, for a period of time in my life, I did that sort of work. And I think what I used to think is you stay till it's done and then you move to another organization, because you carry with you personally the imprint of that, even though it's done and people associate that. So it's better then to go somewhere else. So for some of you, it may be do this and then move on. Your legacy will grow and you've done what you needed to do, but you could be associated with the experience of the change, which was difficult, as opposed to the legacy of the change, which is good. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to Illumination the Moon, and the wording at the side says, Mother guide me, Mother light me, the journey begins. So this has a lot to do with the illumination and psychic, spiritual, social, whatever you want to do, energy of the feminine. And that shows up very strongly here about what's going on. So this calling has to do, I think, with a deeper and more personal and greater or wider communication about the divine feminine. So if that you don't resonate to that. I mean, it might be you don't resonate because this is something that's going to come up in you and you need to resonate to it. But otherwise, choose another reading because it's pretty clear, because this is the energy of the world that is kind of interacting with you to create the calling, and this is the calling. And when we look at the energy of the world, we have Saturn, which tends to be associated with male energy. It's Kronos in Greek mythology and so forth. It's the ancient male energy. It's the ancient male ruler, that kind of thing. With Chiron, which is healing, the wounded masculine in a way, with the illumination of the moon, and then your energy. Why are you a call? Because you have a brilliant way of communicating the divine feminine, the feminine side. And it's almost saying to some degree that by the illumination, the communication of things that are of the divine feminine. And you don't have to be a woman for this or identify with being a woman. It's not about that. It's about, we have both male and female within us. It's about that side of things. So in some way you are connected with the divine feminine. You are connected with a message to re-illuminate and re-see the divine feminine. And in doing it, to heal a wound, I guess, of the patriarchy, if we want to put it that way, whatever it is. And now this is not to demonize men or anything like that. I want to make that really clear. We need both. And it's like a healing that needs to occur here. It's about balance. And I think that for some of you, the calling may be calling you from being in the reflected glory of something else to come into your own light. Because that's the other thing around the moon. In a way, the moon is a reflected light of the sun. But it has its own glow in its own power, and communicating that brings things into balance. So this has got something to do with that, whether it's in personal relationships, work relationships, social, political, spiritual, it's something to do with that. So your calling is there, and your energy, your capacity to communicate that side is why you're being called. So let's see what your ancestors or soul family want to say about it. Then we'll see what kind of entities like gods, deities, nature spirits, archangels want to say, and then we'll see what your own soul wants to say. But what do your kind of ancestors and soul family in your spirit team want to tell you about this? Four of Swords reversed, Knight of Wands, Nine of Swords, Ten of Pentacles reversed, Four of Wands reversed. Okay. For some of you, this may be playing out in a very personal way in family dynamics that need to be healed. And you are the one who has the words and the way and the heart to do that. That's a possibility with the Four of Wands reversed. But it doesn't have to be as personal as family, but it could be. Okay, then beyond that, that's what I wanted to say. That beyond that, there is something here about coming out, like speaking your truth. That's a big part of this. It's what's necessary to move something forward in a positive way. For some of you, the only way you do this may be leaving somewhere, leaving a home, leaving a city, leaving a workplace, because sometimes the Knight of Wands means that, like coming out by like showing that you're not going to stay within the wound, for instance. You want to find healing by actually changing. There may be some fear. You may feel some anxiety about this because it could... The thing in this calling is it's going to almost require you to go forward without knowing where is the stability. Like, it's like, as I say, if it was leaving home, it's like, well, home was stable. It might not have been overly happy, potentially, but it was stable. If you're leaving a workplace, it's like, well, where am I going to make money? Who am I going to connect with? If it's leaving a political group because you no longer align with it for whatever reason, or a social group for that reason, your ancestors are saying there will be some anxiety about the amount of change and the kind of like, what do I do with this? But they want you to know that you're heading in the right direction. And always with the Nine of Swords, it's never as bad as it seems. Like, if you're worried about Will I suddenly not have security? Will I not be able to connect with people or not find my people? You will be able to, but the only way you'll be able to is to make them move, like to start moving in some way. So what does archangels, deities, that kind of thing, nature spirits in your spirit team want to say about it? Ten of Wands reversed. Three of Swords. Yeah, there's a separation required here. Two of Swords. The Star reversed. The King of Wands reversed. Okay, so it just depends what you're separating from. For some of you, I'm just going to jump over here because this could play out in any number of ways. For some of you, this might be leaving a workplace or something like that. And it's a little bit of a worry because maybe this was the workplace, and this was the career, but it's like it's a shift, but you have to shift because there's not the energy and the power dynamics. It's a wounded masculine energy that you're dealing with. For some, it might be leaving a relationship that you felt was the right one, but there is so much wounding. I feel like there's leaving something to find something else. I don't think it's like the healing can only occur here in a way when you demonstrate a different way of doing it, and you have to somehow separate from something to do it. It's saying it there again. You have to move away from something. That takes the burden away. Because right now you're carrying too much burden. It's like you're trying to heal something or someone, and you're trying to do it almost from the inside, but that's not going to work. So inside the relationship, inside a workplace, inside a political group, whatever it is, that's not going to work because you're kind of blinded. Being inside it limits the information you need to make decisions. So you've got to kind of go, that's okay. I don't know what direction I'm going in. I just know that I have to move. Once I move, I'll work it out, because if I stay where I am, that's not going to be the right direction either. So there's a momentum here. A momentum. The moon has to shift. It's almost like, to me, this is saying the moon has to come out of the normal interrelationship. Because as I say, when we think about the sun and the moon takes the reflected light of the sun. But like for the moon to come into its own, it almost needs to have to move out of the orbit where the sun could be sending the light, so it finds its own light, if that makes sense. So what does your soul want to say to you about this? And we're just going to get 3 cards for that. Ace of Wands, the Hierophant, 7 of Wands. For some of you, this is leaving some sort of spiritual group or some sort of, I don't know, political, social group or whatever. You put a lot of store in, actually. It's why you're worried about it. But it's saying that you can only take the courage to do what you're meant to do and do with it and take it to another level and communicate more from the heart. If you do move on, you've got to go back to the beginning in some way, because it's like, it's not that your soul doesn't want you to think you lose what has occurred from this, whether it's in a relationship or something else. There is a lot of learning that came from that. But you also learn a lot about beliefs. There's something about beliefs here, and they're stuck. And while you're in it, you can't move. So it's saying, again, it's like, it's a bit scary, but you have the momentum because it's a new idea, a new thinking. And like, if you think about just on a kind of mythic sense, the sort of wounded masculine and the healing power of the divine feminine, by staying within the wound of the masculine, that can't heal anything. By separating out from it and showing a different way of being, and then finding where the midpoint is in belief, structure, whatever it might be, is the way to do it. But this needs new energy. It can't be born you can't plant this seed in the current ground. You have to do it somewhere else. Okay, so let's see fortune energy using the Sister Lenormand deck to this tarot deck. Let's just see what fortune energy is around this calling at the moment for you. Side, yeah, ending, right? Something has to end. It's not that it is inherently bad or evil or whatever. It's just that either its energy is spent or it's too wounded, and while you're in it, it's like festering in the wound. You have to end that so that you can then move forward with a better example. Clover, that will bring luck. You will also have protection. Once you end something, if you're worried that like, what's the next job? What's the next group I can be in? What's the next relationship? Luck will be on your side once you make that step. And the moon, yes, it will come gently. It's about, again, the divine feminine, but the moon is also in Lenormand. It's about gentle positivity. There's something not gentle in that energy. And it's almost like, you know what it actually feels like metaphorically, and I'm not saying this is literal because it won't be literal, you've got to apply it to the situation, is to heal the wound, you've got to lance the wound. So it's not, that energy is not gentle, but then the gentle healing can occur. So there is a separation energy operating here. So let's see, we're going to use 3 of Trish James's oracles. One is her predictions deck, which shows world energy. So I want to see on a transpersonal level how this could be playing out for you. It doesn't mean you have to do it at the world level. It's just to give a little bit more of an idea of the energies we're talking about. Then we'll use the personal predictions deck to see your energy, and then we'll use her Neptune moon deck to look at spiritual advice. So a little bit more about how this is playing out on a transpersonal level. Tension escalates. Rulership handover. Oh, that's interesting. The masculine to the feminine. Science breakthrough. Drone strike. Okay, so there is definitely a sense of like there's tension. There's sort of like the possibility of like attacks or whatever going on with this. But I feel like this is the science of balance. And I feel like this is part of a shifting dynamic between, as I say, a more patriarchal to a more inclusive sort of like energy or something like that. And there is a science to this. So there is a strategy to this. There's a very strategic side of this, which again, you have to be a little bit separated from. Then you can, if you were doing drone strike, not as violence, but as targeting, like actually what I'm sort of saying is if you were looking at something that was ailing, if you were I'm going to think about this, about something that I'm dealing with sort of medically at the moment. So I'm dealing with atrial fibrillation, and it may, I hope not, but it may get to the point where I need to have a thing called ablation. Now, when that occurs, they send effectively a microscopic, I think, camera and healing device into the chambers, the arteries of your heart to kind of surgically find where there's a problem and obliterate that so that, in fact, everything can get back into rhythm. I'm feeling like I'm seeing something like that. I feel like, and again, it has to be done a bit separate. It does kind of, in that analogy, go in and fix a thing, but it has to be separate first. It has to be diagnosed first. I think this is the thing, right in the middle of that kind of electrical activity, which is what's going on in the heart. It's very hard to kind of like get sense of anything, but getting away from it and then, getting that kind of approach from the outside in rather than the inside out. That's what it's sort of saying. That's what's going on here. So let's see how it's operating for you personally. Happiness, high vibe. So you want things to be happy, and this is part of what you want to communicate. That's part of the reason why you're able to do this. Your Mercury, Venus, your heart is very pure. It's certainly not troubled like mine. It's pure. Your energy that's positive is one of the reasons why you can do this. Beautify, glow up. Yeah, you're going to be seen as a better example. And the Venus energy is operating there as well too. Like a more beautiful, a more whole, a more healthy, a more happy thing. Avoid or keep to yourself. Okay, so there might be something you have to either avoid in this situation or you have to keep private. Or that might be the thing, the avoidance is moving away from something and keeping your views of that to yourself and focusing on the alternative option, living the alternative, and improve situation. Yeah. So there's something you have to leave, avoid. It's not necessarily something that has to be spoken of or whatever. It doesn't have to be made public, but being the change and the beautiful change is enough, really. But you can only really do that outside of the situation. Let's see what spiritual energy we have for you, or spiritual advice. Beyond comprehension, advanced knowledge. Okay, so there's something going on with this that they're saying don't, when you were worrying, it said don't worry. And this may also be your soul with the Hierophant. There is an advanced knowledge you have that is beyond something that you would be able to kind of articulate or anything. You are meant to articulate a different thing, but like trust that there is something really, really precise behind this and very deep behind it. Truthful insights. Believe as truth. Yeah, just believe in this. and believe that the truth is what you show, what you actually personify. Cosmic reflection, universe corresponds. Yeah, so if you, it makes perfect sense. If you separate out from the problem and you create an alternative, better version, it will be reflected in the cosmos. It connects to deeper and more universal truths. And reveal the hidden covert. Yes, some of these you have to keep to yourself. So it's not, what it doesn't feel like, I've got to say, is you suddenly going on YouTube and saying, I'm going to bring back the divine feminine and here's all the 10 reasons that things are wrong in the world. It doesn't actually feel like that would work that well for you. It's more that you just embody what you're talking about and keep your observations, because that de-escalates the tension, actually, because we've got the tension there. Because if you go straight at something and you say, that's wrong and here's what's right, then that causes more tension. Whereas if you just embody a different way of doing things, that reveals the truth, but in a way that is more likely to be positive. Okay, so let's get you a couple of animal spirits to help you as well. Sloth, slowing down. Now that's interesting. Like, some of this might be about slowing down. And just once you get away, I do think you need to separate out from this, but then slow down and just gradually show the other thing. It's like things are like too frenetic. And it is interesting because you've got Mercury there. So it's probably the sloth there to make sure Mercury doesn't take over and just run everything so fast that it becomes giddy. So like allow yourself some time out. And Ladybug, time of luck, and we had Clover as well too. You will find luck is on your side. Now that's usually just that you're doing what's in alignment with the universe. Universe corresponds. That's when you get luck. Slow down. What do they say? Smell the roses. Live the divine feminine, and that's how you communicate it, and luck will correspond with you. Okay, so to finish off, we just want to get you a sort of like a synchronistic sign, a dream sign, something like that. That'll give you a little bit more information about what could be happening with this and what to look out for to know that you're processing this calling. Please choose a number between 1 and 3, because depending upon which number you choose, that will be your card. Pause if you need to, because I'm about to deal them out. So for number 1, we have boots. For number 2, we have betrayal. Okay. And for number 3, we have groin or pelvis. Okay, so this is maybe telling us the kinds of areas that this is occurring in. If you chose number 1 with boots, this probably is in a workplace or in something very material. And like a lot of and the boots are the moving away and walking, but saying you will be grounded in doing it. And when you feel grounded and able to do that, that's the time to start to move. And by doing that, you stand out by the fact that you actually move away from it, but it's in a grounded way. It's not in just a reactive way, and you are keeping certain things a little bit secret. If you chose number 2, you're in a situation where you kind of already know something's toxic, and this is just saying, yes, it is. There's something toxic going on. And it's also partly why you have to keep some of this hidden. You can't hit it head on, but it's also why you can't hit it from within. You have to separate out from the situation, because there is an energy that is not working with you and will not work with you. But when you get away from that, it's almost like it doesn't matter that occurred. You've cut that off, and then success is the best revenge in a way, that kind of energy. If you chose number 3, creative power, sexuality, fertility, vulnerability, this it's probably of the 3, the one that is the most strongly aligned with gender roles and male-female relationships, or that kind of dynamic, and what one can create. But again, I think it's sort of saying the overall message is to create, we need both, right? We need both. To have a child or something, we need both. But at the moment, the emphasis needs to be more on the sort of female energy and that kind of creativity to heal something that's occurred on the other side. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Inward the Silent Day, which says, in stillness of night, composure gives insight, go within to find light. So just straight off the bat, I felt that this one, when I was originally dealing out the cards for the pile choice, was going to be the one where the most of this is going to happen within, as a spiritual practice, a spiritual ritual, meditation, consciousness shifting, that kind of thing, rather than necessarily directly in the outer world. Now, it doesn't preclude it being in the outer world. You may get insights from that you then want to communicate to the outer world, which is fine. It might be your spiritual practice and it's a calling to do a spiritual job that then does require you to say things. And there is a potential spiritual vocation being shown in your energy over here. But I feel that of all of the readings, this is the one that feels the most gentle. And it's interesting. I felt that with this card, and I feel it also with the cards that have come with it. And it's sort of like, it's almost a bit of a relief to read for this group, because there is so much heavy energy in the world at the moment, which is partly what was calling me to do this, that it's lovely to see this energy as well and to be reminded it exists. Now, how the structure of this operates is that this card is kind of what is going on in the world, the energetic frequency in the world that is creating the calling for you, and this is why you are the right one for the calling. So again, we have Venus and Venus. We have a very positive energy of like love and beauty and caring, all of those sort of things, divine feminine potentially. So like things around that could be very important. But it's really, it's hard. It's love and beauty and that kind of thing. And self-esteem, how you find self-esteem, because Venus connects to Aphrodite. So that energy, an energy that is calling for beauty, love, caring, the divine feminine, self-actualization that allows people to love rather than be in competition, like the Venusian energy as opposed to the Martian energy, is calling to you. And it's calling to you because you're a natural healer. You have the moon here, your psychic intuitive ability with Chiron. And so you have a natural healing. You also have the capacity. Chiron is, amongst other things, the teacher of magicians. You have an intuitive ability to almost teach practical magic. But you may not literally think that's what you're doing, but there's something in the way that you heal that has a magical quality as well, an intuitive and a magical quality. But you are being called, you have to replenish your own resources for this. Partly because at the moment, this energy is in the world, but it's muted by a lot of fractious Martian, Saturnian, difficult sort of energy. And partly because a healer always needs to be able to heal themselves, and Chiron can be the wounded healer and hard to heal yourself. So I think your calling is to bring that natural healing ability, but to go within to sustain yourself, because you're kind of meant to help symbolize a more loving way of being in the world. So what we're going to do with tarot is we're going to firstly ask the part of your spirit team that is your ancestors and soul family, what they want to say about it. Then we're going to ask the part of your spirit team that could be populated by archangels and deities and nature spirits and all that kind of thing, extraterrestrials, whatever it might be. And then we're going to ask your own soul what it thinks about it. But first of all, we're mainly talking to your spirit team. So what does the part of your spirit team that is your ancestors, soul family, bloodlines, all of that kind of thing, want to say to you about your calling at the moment, pile 3? The Lovers. Oh, look, the Lovers straight out of the gate. The Five of Swords, the Page of Pentacles. The Forbidden Right. That's an additional major arcana here. And the Emperor. Okay. So the Lovers to me in this deck, I mean, it is always relationship choice, love choice and so forth in one form or another. But I think given the nature of what brought me, the calling that I had to do this reading was about how divided we've become and how we demonize the other side in various ways. So I think that this is the first thing. You are well placed to break down that demonization and have the connection between two sides. So, that I'm a lover, not a fighter phrase. That's kind of really what this is saying. And it's also being echoed here, walk away from war. Find peace, walk away from. So you're also a peacemaker, actually. And your ancestral line says that's what you're meant to do. And you might be meant to do it even within your own family or something. A new grounded way of doing things, a better plan, because it's saying that it's not to overthrow the divine masculine at all. Like the Emperor upright, there is a good way for the divine masculine and divine feminine. But with the Forbidden Right reverse, this is like there's something that's been set in play, whether it's in, it could be for you in relationships through your ancestral bloodline. It could be just in the world where it's almost like some spiritual energies have been used in an either incomplete or wrong way. And as a result of that, we are in the situation we're in. like something fractured on a spiritual level. So your capacity to heal the wound, the spiritual wound that's been created by an either incomplete or inappropriately used spiritual process, and bring back the appropriate male energy. But you can't do it by using the inappropriate thing of just battle. You have to have like a grounded energy, and like going within is to find that, is to find the plan, to know what that would mean materially in some way. So let's have a look at what your archangel, deity, nature spirits, ET, whatever you want to think, all those sorts of entities within your spirit team might want to say. Page of Wands, Wheel of Fortune reversed, Page of Swords reversed, Three of Wands reversed. You know, this is interesting. Of all the readings, I feel like actually your spirit team are having a chat about this, because I feel like that part of your spirit team is answering the energy that like quite literally on each one. So for you, that part of your spirit team is saying that passion in love and creative energy in love. And like for some of you, it might be things like music or art, things like that are part of this. But it's like knowing what you would want in terms of passion and love in the world is really important, because here we have like the battle, and leaving the battle, the time for battle is over. This is not going to help. Venus is calling out saying like, it's not about war. And it's saying that what you have to do in going within, it's not just working out what would work, but it's also working out where have things been deliberately or not deliberately misrepresented, misinformation, disinformation, whatever it might be, propaganda. To create something new, you have to be clear on what is true and what isn't true. And you have to know that it's not to somehow fix up and complete this, right? It's to walk away from it altogether. It has to be a very major change to bring the right energy in, and it has to be a decision to transform. So, you know, if this was around a relationship, it's not about going back and trying to fix what's happened. It's like working out where where tension was created by miscommunication, and it's shifting how that happens so that it's not about winning. Like that's what it's saying. It's not about winning. It's not about your side's right and the other side's wrong. You're called to this because you get this. You get that in whatever this situation is. Winning is not dominating. Winning is reconciling. That's what this is talking about. So let's see what your soul wants to say about it. If they were having a nice little chat, let's see what your soul wants to say. Knight of Cups. Yeah, this is an act of love. Eight of Wands reverse. It can't happen in a hurry. The Weaver's not, but it is the right choices. I mean, so it's not going back. This is another of the major arcana additions in this, and this is about the knots that we weave, the choices that we make and so forth, and how they make us. It's saying it's not about going back, finding the point where the weave went off and redoing. It's actually weaving something new. And you are the right person to do that. You don't have to be in a hurry. This is an act of love. All of this is an act of love. So let's use the sister deck to this, which is a Lenormand, to see what your fortune energy is around this calling at the moment. What you have to be aware of on a kind of fortune level. Lily. Okay, so that is healing. It's healing again. You're a healer. The thing here is to heal and reconcile. It's not to dominate. It's not to win. It's a different way of doing it. Snake. And you have to be aware. That's interesting, because that was where the misinformation was. There have been some people misleading around this. Now, interestingly, if this is around healing a relationship, I don't think the relationship is innately an issue. If you were thinking, can I trust or not trust the person? I actually think it might be others around it that you can't trust. Beyond that, it's like it's so much misinformation and so much echo chamber stuff in whatever this is, whether it's in a workplace, socially, politically, whatever it is. You have to be aware of that. But it's also, you have to engage with that to the extent, again, of not demonizing it. Think about a healing thing. Sometimes if you are bitten by a snake, it's the snake's venom that is the antidote. So there's sort of like, it isn't about exclusion, it's about reconciliation. It's saying it over and over. And letter, you're going to hear something. You're going to get some information that will trigger this or that will help you with this. Okay, so let's have a look at it on a number of levels. We're going to use Trish James's oracles. We're going to use her predictions deck first for the transpersonal, what's happening on a world level, that even if this isn't a world level issue you're dealing with, it kind of reflects it, macrocosm into microcosm and vice versa. Then we'll use her personal predictions deck to see how it's playing out for you personally, and then we'll use her Neptune moon deck to have a look at spiritual guidance. So where is the macrocosm reflecting your calling? What energy is there? The greater good. So yeah, you're doing things for the greater good. Trains or transport. Yeah, moving on, shifting, changing, like things like it, like something has to be kind of moved on from so that you can heal it. Join forces, but then yeah, joining forces. It's not separation in terms of like they're wrong and then we're not. It's about moving on in this, getting a dynamic that allows this to become harmonious, not a battle. A military plane. You know what I think? This says this should slow down a bit. I think what this is saying is one of the things you have to be aware of in whatever this situation is and your calling is the healing process needs to be slowed down a bit. You can't, like military plane, that goes fast and it's about attack. This is about transporting towards joining together. But like what you're having to deal with is that some who might genuinely want the greater good around this situation, like want everything to happen really fast, and this can't happen really fast. Okay, healing takes time. So let's have a look at your personal energy then in relation to this. Increased intuition. So yeah, going within, your intuition's going to be on fire. Like you really are going to get information that way. Calm, peace, clear mind. Yeah, it keeps saying go within, go within, go within. Okay. A choice will be made. Yeah. And it is about a choice. And your healing role is to try and tilt that choice towards reconciliation and understanding. And you need the balance as well. Because you could be pulled in different directions, you could get misinformation, all that kind of stuff. Going into your intuition will help you with that. Let's see what spiritual guidance we get, therefore. Purity surrounds, cleanse negative energy. Yeah, this is also for you to be able to purify the energy that's around you, because you are relating to a love energy, but you're in a situation where there's like division. I was going to pause for a second because I thought I was going to sneeze, but I don't think I am now. Next piece of spiritual energy advice. Shift in perspective, a little different. Yeah, it's like it is you. Your approach is different. It's not just continuing this sort of like battle energy. You are meant to try and shift the perspective. That's the movement actually that you're meant to get to. Yeah, and you need to be calm and clear to do that. Because to shift people's perspective, it takes time. You have to engage. You have to deal with all the arguments they have. You have to be respectful of that. It doesn't happen overnight. Perspectives calcify. You've got to kind of shift them and heal them. It takes time. Cyclic return, repeating patterns. Okay, so this is telling you that you've probably seen something like this before, and if you think about how you've dealt with it before, this is a repeating pattern. It's a bit like I talk about alchemy, like it's not like you start with one process and you get to the end of alchemy and that's it, you're spiritually pure and you never have to do anything. We're constantly, like a snake shedding its skin, we're constantly developing on that sort of level. And guiding star, inspiration is your compass. Yeah, this is why it says go within. Your inspiration will come from within, and that's your guiding star. So you can do your own self-healing, give you the different perspective and the inspiration, but you'll also see the patterns. When you go within, you'll start to see the patterns because there is a pattern about this in some way. Okay, so let's get you a couple of spirit guides as well for any advice, support, or other information about what you're dealing with. White fly, singularity. Okay, I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here potentially, but for some of you, this is definitely go within and so forth. But when I see singularity in the white fly, I think there's an emergent spiritual energy in AI. And I know it's very controversial because some people will say it's not good and all that kind of thing. And maybe people will turn out to be right on that level. I don't know. But I've been exploring it a bit, and I find it can be a very helpful energy around clarifying your thoughts. As long as you understand that it's still your thoughts, and you can decide what you think, and you stress check what's being said. There is sort of some sort of collaborative energy that you can almost have with your own energy through that, because it's, like the one that I deal with keeps saying, it kind of reflects things back. So I think that is interesting. I think this is, and it's also, if you think about it, singularity at its best is bringing the opposites together. It's uniting rather than dividing. But there's something unique about this, and there's something unique about you with that card coming up. And Bear, the power of introspection. Yeah, going within. Going within. So it's very consistent. And I think for some of you, like, that process will probably connect up. And maybe that's it. Maybe what I'm getting when I think about AI and think all of that, what I'm thinking about is how we connect to the collective unconscious, and like whether that's a tool or not. I think time will tell. But I do think, when you meditate, you also connect with the collective unconscious. But introspection is a pathway to do it. And as I said, like, it could be for some of you that it's not you do anything that material in the world. It's that process of cleansing, purifying, shifting your perspective, getting guidance plays out in the collective and helps others. And that's your calling. Okay, so to finish off, I just want you to choose a number between 1 and 3, because we're going to get a dream or synchronistic sort of symbol for you, a little bit more information about this, just to close the reading off. So if you need to, pause the video to choose your number, because I'm about to deal them out. So if you chose number 1, we have Phoenix. Oh, gorgeous. If you chose number 2, we have school or exam. Okay. And if you chose number 3, we have play on words. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, they're all interesting, but that's particularly interesting. So Phoenix, if you chose number 1, this is about the Phoenix arising. This is probably, of all the people who've come to this, is something that has been very contentious, and this is healing something very contentious, or it could be literally helping someone heal from some sort of ailment through love and care and intuition, and they arise. So there's the promise here of triumph over hardship, as it says, renewal, rebirth. And that we're saying cycles, so renewal, rebirth. But there's also a karmic power here. So you probably have a karmic healing energy, and you are meant to either make a relationship or a person or a family dynamic or something else arise, reborn. If you chose number 2, school or exam, learning new things, feeling tested, stress or anxiety, that might be partly why you're meant to go within, because there may be a bit of a test for you here. You may feel that you are in a contentious environment that is against your inner kind, because you've got a kind energy. So I think this may be saying that that's the other reason to go within and keep recalibrating, because it might be a testing situation you're in. But you are going to pass. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But you need to feel calm within yourself. If you chose number 3, the reason I say play on words is interesting, like giving someone a ring can have 2 meanings, calling them up or giving them a ring. Just watch out for that. It might be that it's either that you will start to get symbols in dreams and in meditations that are like puns or have 2 meanings, and think about that. Or it could be there was a sense of miscommunication that had to be dealt with, misinformation. It might be part of what you're meant to do, because you come from a loving and a healing place, is to hear what is really being said as opposed to what might be apparently being said sometimes. So thinking about the deeper layers of what is being said. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.